pushback against discovery of concussion-related illnesses. It all started with former Steeler, the late Mike Webster. His attorney was Bob Fitzsimmons from Wheeling. Bob Fitzsimmons joins us at 10:30 here on Talkline. Also coming up, a tragic incident. Not an incident, it's more than an incident. Tragic shooting over the weekend in Pocahontas County. Husband and wife shot to death. The husband, a former state trooper. Person of interest, the couple's grandson. We'll get the latest on that this morning, and that's all in hour number one. A lot more to come, but let's get started here this morning. The Don Blankenship juries had 5 days off. 5 days off. They go back to it this morning. Harvey Payton joins us on MetroNews Talkline. Harvey, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Quite all right, Harvey. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Do you think that 5 days off will have changed anything in any juror's mind?
Well, one would think so. I mean, getting away from each other. You've got 12 folks here. Actually, there were 15, including alternates. The alternates are gone now, but they've been since, let's see, the jury selection started October the 1st, and now we are at the 30th of November, and the jury was impaneled, maybe the 6th or 7th of October. So these folks have been together, I mean, in a room, the federal building, being watched by marshals and isolated from everyone for weeks, hearing testimony. One would then and out, and then they've had 5 full days of deliberations. 5 full days where they went in at 9 o'clock in the morning. They got a break at 10:30. They came back, went to lunch at noon, back at 1:30, went home at 5 days in a row. I mean, these folks, maybe they're just tired of each other. Maybe they need a fresh look. You know, get away, get home, come back, reconvene this morning with a new outlook.
Let me do what we have done here, and that is engage in pretty wild speculation, but hopefully based on probabilities. And that is, you come back today, and one of a couple things, Harvey. One is you come back, you have a fresh outlook. Maybe some people have rethought their positions or are rested and ready to reconsider or ready to wrap this thing up. Or you were just as recalcitrant as you were, and then nothing changes. So maybe early on in the deliberations today, there'd be some sign of whether that some people have reconsidered or they're just like they always have been.
Yeah, that may be, but over the weekend, I did a little research. Lawyers live on research,
right.
And I found that there's the University of Chicago College of Law and School of Business published what's called the National Journal of Law and Economics, and back in the late aughts, 2009, they published a really good article about why do jurors take so long to deliberate, and they studied jury deliberation in any number of trials in any number of states, and when I got to the conclusions, it was not surprising, the situation we're in. I mean, first of all, the complexity of the case affects jury deliberations. The length of testimony affects jury deliberations. Some commentators say 1 day per week of testimony, which means we've still got a couple of days to go.
Yeah.
But the number of counts involved tended to extend deliberations. The number of jurors between 6 and 12 didn't make a significant difference, but the one really significant factor in the length of deliberations was when juries are selected through a process where more potential jurors are excused than are seated, deliberations tend to be much longer.
Really? Why?
And that's there are a number of reasons. Of course, that's what the statistically significant showing is that these scholars commented on. 3 professors from the University of Texas. That's what the numbers show. Number one, the elimination of bias is significant. But when post-verdict interviews show the presence of some bias in the panel, results tend to be quicker. People act. So you eliminate bias. You start with a panel that has less knowledge about the underlying case, and it indicates a tough and divisive trial, because the lawyers are both well-prepared and qualified on each side of the case. Now, while that's what the empirical data says, we didn't know that last week. I hadn't done the research, but that pretty much fits the pattern here.
Yeah.
Clearly does. And, had we known that or thought about that during voir dire, now it points out again how really important that process was. And this case fits the statistical pattern of a complicated case with multiple counts in which a jury was selected in a process where more jurors were excused than seated, and that tends to lead to a longer jury deliberation.
Suggesting then, Harvey, that where we are is not that unusual then.
Suggesting that where we are is in keeping with what the empirical research shows, and not that unusual. That's correct. It's unusual in West Virginia. We don't see these kinds of cases.
Well, we don't see many. We don't see many federal trials in West Virginia. They go on for 2 months. I mean, we just don't. And the average trial in a county, a murder trial or something, or an armed robbery, goes maybe into a second week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe.
Maybe, sure, depending on the complexity of the case. I also remember, Aaron Hernandez.
Okay.
The fellow who was convicted of murder up in New England.
Right, the former New England Patriot, right.
7 days. A trial that lasted like 21 days in his case, 7 days of deliberations, which resulted in a guilty verdict. Now, opposed to 10 or 12 months with O.J. Simpson that resulted in an acquittal in 4 hours. Both those are outside the norm. Actually, the empirical research done by the gentleman who wrote for the University of Chicago indicated that length of time with a jury that was selected in contested voir dire, such as this jury, tended more often to result in acquittal as opposed to conviction. So, I mean, for what it's worth. But obviously, because in the real world, things fall outside those parameters all the time. But based upon really good research, really well-qualified authors in a highly respected, peer-reviewed journal, what we're seeing here in Charleston is not outside the norm. It's within the parameters. It's
Harvey,
what would normally be expected.
So, and Harvey Payton's with us, serving as legal advisor on this, legal consultant on this Don Blankenship case. So we just continue to go along? I mean, how many days, because the jury hasn't come back in a couple days with any questions, so how many more days do you go before the judge pokes her head in there?
Well, that's within the discretion of the court. You know, it was indeed a case in which there were 6 full weeks of testimony and hundreds of documents, an initial reaction by the jury after just a day and a half, how long do we deliberate? We can't agree, and no questions since. So they are deliberating. They're trying
just
to
the questions about definitions.
Right, they had a question about the definition of terms, which indicates they're deliberating on the second 2 counts of the indictment, that is the securities charges. I would be surprised if the judge does anything until she hears from the jury. Yeah. I mean, the judge has a lot of discretion about how the trial is conducted and how to respond to questions from the jury, but she is horse-collared a bit because you've got a Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial, and she can't do anything that appears to be coercive. I mean, repeatedly calling the jury back into the courtroom to say, "How you doing, guys?" could be viewed as encouraging them to, come on, let's get this thing moving. And the court has plenty of time. While the jury is deliberating, the judge is in her office and in her courtroom doing other work. I mean, it's piling up the bill for Blankenship. Alpha's in bankruptcy. I don't know who's going to pay these bills.
Yeah. Harvey, also that when, of course, every time there's an opportunity, the defense makes a motion for a mistrial that says obviously the jury can't reach a verdict. Judge Berger has rejected those. And when she rejected the last one, she said about the jury, they apparently continue to talk. There is no reason to believe they are deadlocked or coerced to reach a verdict. A 5.5-week case is very complex for people who don't know the law. 5 days of deliberations. 5 days is not long for 5.5 weeks of testimony. So the judge, I think, is setting the bar there, too, saying, no, they're deliberating, and this is a long trial. It's complicated, and we're going to keep going.
Yeah, so long as they continue to deliberate. Now, if we get some communication from the jury, that something untoward has happened. I mean, there are cases where single holdouts just say, I refuse to deliberate. I don't think this should be a crime. Or they just have a bias. I mean, there are actually cases where that has occurred, where one juror just thinks nullification is appropriate. I'm not going to convict him, I don't care what you say. Or I'm not going to acquit him, I don't care what you say.
Right.
If that happens, the court, of course, she could remove one juror and go with 11.
You can? Yeah, that would be
Well,
that would be pretty unusual, though, right?
Well, it would be quite unusual. I mean, it has been done, generally not with recalcitrant or nullifying jurors. It's been done with illness, mental incapacity. In one case that I read that was reported, a juror just couldn't take it anymore and just said, I can't deliberate, I can't think. And she had a court-appointed psychologist interview the person and said, well, they're just not fit to serve. And so the judge enacted her authority under the federal rules and concluded the case with 11. But we're way off from that. Here we got a couple of days after Thanksgiving. Let's see what happens. I mean, my personal thought is that 5 days off will do these folks some good, and they'll come back and get this case resolved.
I continue to get, I wrote about it on Friday, and I continue to see the comments. I continue to see people post comments and saying things like, and I had a call last week of people saying, well, we know what's happened here. Blankenship's bought off the jury. I am so, and that to me is so lazy to
it's
suggest
lazy and
that.
it's offensive.
It is.
I think people that resort to that, you question, people question folks' Americanism all the time, but, when you just resolve every dispute or every disagreement that is on the other side from your perception of things as it fixes in.
Somebody got bought off. It's a vacuous argument, and unless you have evidence to suggest that, it has no merit. And I think it's very dismissive of the system, which generally works pretty well. Okay,
yeah,
generally works pretty well. So.
And you've got 12 people here. I've looked at. I was in the courtroom almost every day, and looking at these 12 folks, there are a lot of things they'd rather be doing. I would assure you, than sitting for 7 or 8 weeks in a federal courtroom, or in a jury room, in a room, where a marshal is at the door. It's like being in jail almost, except you can't leave when you want to.
No.
You can leave when the judge tells you to leave. And now, the process. We talked about this last week. The process is important because it's a collective decision. People aren't generally used to collective reasoning. How much am I willing to give up so that you can benefit, or how much will I give in favor of you? That's collectivism, and people don't generally think that.
No, half the time. We don't. Half the time, two people can't agree on anything.
Right.
So, okay, we're going to watch it closely as always. Harvey Payton, great insights this morning. I appreciate you coming on. And thank you very much. All right, Harvey Payton, who's serving as our legal advisor in the Don Blankenship case, will be back.
West Virginia has balanced its budget on the back of the coal industry ever since we became a state 150 years ago. Historically, the coal industry and coal-fired electric utilities have accounted for over 60% of all business taxes, while high-energy wages contribute a disproportionate share of income taxes, and coal severance dollars sustain important programs in all counties. All told, the industry infuses over $26 billion to our state's economy. Coal alone has paid down nearly $1 billion of the state's workers' compensation debt. Consequently, all state businesses have experienced major reductions in workers' comp benefits. The coal industry has always supported our people and our economy, but it's under attack from the Obama administration and the EPA. It's fighting to survive. Coal taxes in West Virginia are higher than our surrounding states. We're losing coal markets to our neighbors. Let's get our mines and coal miners working again. Support a reduced tax rate for mining, paid for by West Virginia Coal Association.
You feel a strong desire to help hurting children and families in West Virginia, but you think,
what could I do?
Burlington United Methodist Family Services has a place for everyone. Folks to help with office duties in their facilities across the state. Professional and business people to help teach youth about their professions. Volunteers for their annual pumpkin and apple harvest festivals. And of course, donations of all kinds. What can you do? Search your heart and go to bumfs.org today. bumfs.org.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more, together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. By the way, Judge Berger did give additional instructions to the jury this morning. She said she told the jurors, 8 women, 4 men, be vigilant about not discussing the case outside the jury room. She told the jurors to walk away if necessary, if somebody comes up to you outside the courtroom and brings up the case. She also told the jury, quote, every juror should be able to express an opinion if he or she wants to do so. And she also said, be respectful, treat others with courtesy. Those were additional instructions Judge Berger gave to the jury in the Blankenship trial this morning. Let's go to Paris, where Simon Owen of Fox News Radio is there for the gigantic climate summit. Simon, good morning. Thank you. And the president got a chance to speak, albeit briefly, to the summit. What did he say?
Morning, Hoppy. Well, he set out his belief that this is potentially a turning point for the world. He said that he read a quote that this is the first generation, we are the first generation to see the impact of the effects of climate change, and we're the last generation able to do something about it. So he urged leaders to buy into this idea that it is time that urgent action be taken, and encourage the other leaders who are in the audience to join him in that. We're told there are something like 151 world leaders here, and France is saying that those numbers are unprecedented in terms of getting world leaders together for any kind of conference. So I think that indicates that there is a certain appreciation here that this is a key issue for many, for a large proportion of the world. But there are 2 leaders who you're really watching on these occasions, and that is President Obama and President Xi of China. They've already met on the sidelines of the summit, and they do seem to be both relatively on board with the idea of combating global warming. But what this summit can produce, well, that remains to be seen. There's 2 weeks of haggling to come. The world leaders are here for today and a bit of tomorrow, but then the negotiations start. And the task each time this annual meeting takes place is, in theory, to come up with a binding global agreement on reducing carbon emissions and limiting global warming. But so far, in 20 attempts, they've never managed to achieve it, and there's no indication they'll do it this time. So it's a case of, what's the compromise like? Is it any good? The leaders will say it's great. What do other people say there at the end of it? That's what we have to wait and see.
Simon, extremely complicated issue, and you said a key phrase there, binding. How can it be binding on all these countries? Who enforces that? Number one. And number two is, there's going to be a huge squabble between the developed countries and the developing countries as to who pays whom, because a lot of those developing countries think the United States and Great Britain and others should pay the freight. And that's a huge issue as well.
Yeah, and India is one of the big players there, a big polluter, and is adamant that why should the West and developed countries have been able to pollute all they like for the last 150 years and enjoy all that development, and now it's India's turn to boom. Why should it be penalized? And that sort of thing is one of the issues. I think President Obama is quite keen on offering some kind of support to those countries and really pushing them hard to get on board. As to how you make this sort of thing binding, well, the difference with this summit compared to other ones, I think, having given up on the idea of any kind of universal deal, all the countries here, and we're told 180 countries have done this, have come tucked under their arms, have got various plans that they've come up with, targets they've set for themselves, and it's quite hard to compare them because they all use different numbers and this sort of thing,
right.
And their suggestions that what Russia's come up with actually may be an increase in emissions compared to the previous levels it's talking about, and this sort of thing is very hard to know. But what they will discuss here is a way of some kind of framework to monitor that people aren't doing what they're pledging to do at this summit. But you're right. I mean, compared to a global, universal, binding agreement, just to have people say, well, why don't you write down what you think you can do? And there's nothing to force them to do anything particularly dramatic there, hence what we've seen from the Russians, I suppose. It's not quite so impressive as far as environmentalists are concerned compared with something like, the Kyoto Protocol, but making that binding for the whole world, that sort of thing.
Simon Owen, Fox News Radio in Paris at that climate summit. Simon, thank you very much. We'll be checking back with you. We appreciate your time. Simon Owen, Fox News Radio at that summit. Hunters, don't forget, when you want to check your game, you can do it by phone. 844-WV-CHECK. Online, log on to WVHunt.com. In person, stop by a hunting or fishing license agent. You'll need to know your permanent DNR ID number when you check your game, and you'll be given a 13-digit confirmation number that you write on your field tag. It's that simple. If you need an ID number, visit WVHunt.com. Chris Lawrence will join us later in the show, second hour, about 11:45. He's been soliciting pictures of people who've had, I guess you would call it trophy kills so far this deer season. So we'll talk to him about that. Email from Jeff. Hoppy, either you and Harvey are paid shills for Blankenship, or maybe, just maybe, you all were right to call out the lazy-minded twits who reflexively cry, the fix is in. Thanks to you both. Jeff, you're welcome. We're going to take a break and be back. When we come back, concussion. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Carrie Hudasek. Some drivers are getting caught along the West Virginia Turnpike.
Caught without the cash needed to pass through toll plazas at Jet, Pax, and Shillian at $2 a pop. To remind drivers about the cash-only policy, the West Virginia Parkways Authority has placed reminder signs along the turnpike. Parkways Authority General Manager Greg Barr predicts all toll collections across the U.S. will eventually be electronic. No toll collectors required. Such a transition, though, he says, makes no sense for the turnpike right now.
We can't make that kind of investment because we have an uncertainty about whether we'll even have tolls on the road after 2019.
And that's why they're sticking with cash. Barr says drivers committed to their cards should sign up for an Easy Pass to have the tolls deducted from an account electronically. I'm Shauna Johnson, WV, MetroNews.com.
A Huntington man remains in custody this morning for allegedly firing shots outside a Walmart Saturday evening. 22-year-old Bryant Brown was arrested and charged with wanton endangerment. He's accused of shooting at another vehicle in the parking lot of the Barbersville store. Investigators have recovered the gun. No one was hurt. Police in Kanawha County are investigating a case where a man allegedly broke into a home near Bell on Saturday. The burglary suspect, 33-year-old Justin Jones, was killed by the homeowner who claimed he shot Jones. The homeowner has not been charged. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Metro News Radio Networks, the voice of West Virginia, and the voice of successful businesses across the state. You might be interested to know that when you advertise on Metro News, your message is heard in all 55 counties on more than 60 radio stations, that our programming reaches more than 600,000 people each week, and that by associating with West Virginia Metro News, you're associating your business with some of the biggest names in the state, like Hoppy Kercheval, Tony Caridi, Chris Lawrence, Fred Persinger, and many more. But maybe you should just listen to what some of our advertisers have to say.
Metro News understands West Virginia, understands the businesses in West Virginia, understands the people.
And it's in every little nook and cranny and small town in West Virginia.
It's accomplishing what we set out to accomplish.
We're reaching a vast majority of West Virginians through the network.
They really do become a strategic partner.
It is the simplest and easiest way to reach the largest percentage of West Virginians.
Visit WVMetroNews.com to find out how to get your business on the most efficient and effective advertising entity in the state. Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
State Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is urging West Virginians to protect themselves from scams online during this Cyber Monday. He offers some tips for online shopping this holiday season.
Make sure that you're aware of suspicious links that come in. Also, ensure that if you're making payments online, use a reputable site that people know about.
More tips are available at WVMetroNews.com. It'll be a wet Monday ahead in the Mountain State. The National Weather Service says rain will continue today and this evening in some spots. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Carrie Hudasek.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. A lot of buzz about the movie Concussion with Will Smith. It's the story of Dr. Bennet Omalu and his fight with the National Football League for recognition of the disorder chronic traumatic encephalopathy with CTE, which is related to concussions that football players are subjected to when they play that game. And this is a long and complicated story. It has its origins, though. The origins go back to former Steeler All-Pro Mike Webster, and also Mike Webster's relationship with Wheeling attorney Bob Fitzsimmons. Bob Fitzsimmons joins us on Metro News Talkline. Bob, good morning. How are you?
Good, Hoppy. How you doing?
I'm well, sir. Good to talk to you again. How did you meet Mike Webster?
He had actually called and had been referred by, I think he had talked to a judge, is one of the stories that he had given, and he'd been to several attorneys, multiple attorneys, before he came here to Wheeling in 1997. And he had also spoken with Mr. Rooney, who indicated he should get an attorney, and I think my name was mentioned among multiple other attorneys at that time.
He was in a pretty bad way, Bob. He had memory problems. His marriage had broken up. He had financial problems. He was living in his pickup. What did you think at first when he came to see you, and why did you take up his case?
Well, first of all, when he came, he set the appointment up. It was like a Tuesday or something, and Tuesday rolled around, and Mike didn't show up. So I kind of wondered about whether it would ever happen. And then a couple days later, he just kind of appeared at the office, and he was totally confused as to the date, which is kind of an indication of the mental problems that he was having. When I met him, one of the things that kind of struck me, Hoppy, is, when a guy like that walks into your office, Mike was, Iron Mike, and
right.
He kind of epitomized the Steelers of the 70s, and everybody knew who he was, and he was this icon. And when we went through some of the history, his date of birth is actually 2 days after mine, so we were the exact same age. And I remember thinking at that time, here's this guy with all these major problems at this point in his life, and somebody that you and I and everybody else in the world, when we were kids, probably idolized, would want to be like. And here he was asking for help at that time. But it was pretty obvious to me that he had some mental problems at that point. His memory was bad. He would shift moods. But he wasn't in the movie, and I saw the movie. I went out to the premiere in Hollywood here last week, and the movie kind of portrayed him as this raging maniac, which Mike was not. Mike was a very kind and gentle person, very caring. When somebody would stop him on the streets, he would pass out football cards of his picture and talk to people and just give them as much time as possible, because he really believed that the fans made the game and made him, and he wanted to give back. So he was a very caring and good person. So the movie really doesn't portray him accurately.
Does that disappoint? Does that disappoint you?
It's Hollywood,
Yeah.
And I felt bad for Mike. Mike passed away in 2002, so he couldn't defend his position. So yeah, I did feel kind of bad about it. I didn't like that aspect of it, because he became a close friend of mine. He ended up kind of almost becoming dependent a little bit on myself and his son, Garrett, who came down from Wisconsin and actually started living with him. He had his oldest son, Colin, that lived with him and kind of took care of him, and then he went to the service, and Garrett came down. He was a high school kid. He was junior in high school when he came down. He actually became kind of the father in the relationship and kind of took care of Mike at that point,
Bob,
for several years.
Bob Fitzsimmons is with his attorney for the late Mike Webster, and that's really sort of the origin of this whole story of concussion, the big article, the book, and now the movie. And Bob, you had to be, and I know you had to be appalled that when you found out that he probably had work-related injuries and was getting the minimum from the NFL for disability.
Well, he wasn't getting the minimum. He wasn't getting anything at that
really?
time. When I first met with Mike, under their pension plan, and a pension's different. When you make a claim against a pension board, it's different than a normal lawsuit. And I had not done pension work at the time, so I was a little bit reluctant to take the case on. But he just needed help, and he hadn't been getting any help, and he was getting near the age of 45 at that time, so we had to get the claim in. And so I went ahead and filed the claim at that time and put together 4 doctors and I got his medical records. And one of the problems with getting Mike's medical records, when you're a celebrity like that, every doctor in the world that you meet wants to see you or says, come on over. And, of course, Mike took advantage of that. And he had seen numerous doctors, and whether it was for colds or whatever, but he couldn't remember a lot of the people that he had met. And so there were all these medical records out there with a guy that couldn't remember where he had been, what hospitals he had received treatment at. And so it really was a task. It took over a year to put all of his medical records together, and we have a volume of medical records, Hoppy, that has all these things. And we had to actually track from one doctor to another, because he would give a history, let's say in 1978, to a doctor saying that I went to see Dr. Smith, and we would find that record. We'd have to track down Dr. Smith and then get his records. And so it just kind of it kind of was a puzzle we had to put together. But when we put it together, we found evidence of concussions and that, and having car accident cases and that. We do a lot of truck accident, car accident type cases also. It was pretty well known at that time that people could sustain closed head injuries without a physical mark on their skull, without a fracture to the skull, just because the brain is not attached. It's in this tub of fluid inside the brain, and so when you stop the momentum in a car, the brain actually moves forward or backwards and becomes injured, and that's how a lot of these concussions occur without skull fractures, and helmets don't really help that.
Bob, let me
stop the G-forces.
Bob, let me jump ahead here. What did you think when you got the call, which I think you did, from Dr. Malo, who said he wanted to further examine Mike Webster's brain?
Well, it was a late night call I received. I'm here at the office late at night a lot of times, and he had called. He was a little bit difficult to understand. He's from Nigeria. He actually ended up one of my best, closest friends now today. But it was kind of a weird call, and I had been up to see Mike. I went up when Mike passed away. I actually went to the emergency room when Mike presented at the emergency room with his son and 2 of his closest friends, and myself went up there when he passed away. And when he asked to do the autopsy at that time, of course, we had already proven at that point in 2002 when Mike passed away, we had received an award from the pension board in 2000, May 8th of 2000, that already made the finding that Mike had sustained brain injury as related to football-related activities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was already proven at that point in May of 2008. Dr. Amalu then took it from a scientific standpoint and asked to do the autopsy. I thought it was good. I didn't want any autopsy to be done of any other parts of his body because the family didn't want that. But it's kind of a weird thing when you ask to do an autopsy on a person's brain, or later Dr. Amalu, Dr. Bales, and myself formed a group, and we do autopsies on these brains. When I say we, I'm part of the group. I don't do the autopsies, obviously, because I'm just a lawyer, but they do the autopsies, and it's difficult to ask somebody to take out the brain. It's just kind of a weird thing,
right.
And it's difficult to ask that, but we've had over 40 brains donated to us that we've done autopsies.
Bob, Bob Fitzsimmons is with his attorney he's an attorney for Mike Webster, and really that's where this whole thing began with concussion. Mike, and a lot of this story in the movie, and you've seen it, I have not, but a lot of the story is about the fight by Dr. Omalu and others against the National Football League to acknowledge chronic traumatic encephalopathy. But you're an attorney, you've been in fights all your life, and Omalu was a little bit naive about what he was up against. He thought that the NFL might accept this. We now know more about this, but did you ever tell him, like, listen, we're up against the NFL here. This is going to be a fight.
Yeah, I was with Dr. Omalu the entire way during his entire fight, Dr. Bales and myself. I'm not included in the movie. I am in the book. We had a group called Brain Injury Research Institute that we were the members of that and ran that. And he was naive. He came from Nigeria. He didn't even know about football. Had no clue about how the game was played and that. But when he was told the history about the concussions, he had a suspicion also that what we had proven was true, and he was going to try to prove it from a scientific standpoint. So what happened was we proved that Mike has football-related brain injury in 2000, May 8th of 2000, but that doesn't get published. That's a pension board finding that has representatives of the owners and the players and also the commissioner at that time.
But he got it in a scientific journal, right?
They made that admission, yeah. But it was kept in closed doors. It wasn't published. We didn't go out and broadcast that this finding was made. It was a personal matter, and Mike began receiving benefits then as of 1998. We did then, the NFL then, we tried to make the benefits go retroactively back to 1990 when Mike retired, and the NFL said no, that we weren't going to do that. And then we had to fight that battle in court, and that did generate a little bit of publicity. But what really brought this thing to a head was Dr. Omalu. When doctors do scientific studies and research, they oftentimes publish that in medical journals.
Right.
And Dr. Omalu took his findings from Mike's autopsy and published that in a medical journal that went national in 2005.
But the NFL tried to discredit that, Bob. The NFL tried to discredit that.
It was terrible. They had a commission established at that time of doctors. The guy that headed it up was a rheumatologist. He wasn't even a brain surgeon or a pathologist. And he headed it up and indicated that what Dr. Omalu said, he actually said it was voodoo science, basically, and that it wasn't correct. And they had this commission with some pretty renowned doctors that also believed that football-related activities, these concussions, the repeated concussions, and I want to emphasize it's repeated concussions. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily just one concussion, but it's the repetitive nature of getting the brains kind of injured on a fairly regular basis that causes CTE. But when the paper came out, they went after him, and Dr. Bales joined forces with him and gave him also some medical credibility at that time. And Dr. Bales was our chairman down at West Virginia University, and I'm real proud to say that we set up the Brain Injury Research Institute and made it part of West Virginia University for a period of time. And as you probably know, and most of the people in West Virginia, we lost a great neurosurgeon. Dr. Bales ended up in Chicago, and when we did that, because we didn't have anybody at West Virginia, we moved our Brain Injury Research Institute that still examines brains today out to Chicago.
Bob, let me jump ahead to the movie, and I haven't seen the movie yet. You have, and I wonder what the impact of the movie is going to be. Of course, the NFL's come a long way in acknowledging CTE, but what do you think the impact of the movie is going to be? Because it's a bit of a downer story in some respects, and A, and B, about putting sort of revealing kind of a dark side of one of the most popular sports in the world. How's it going to be received?
Well, when you say a dark side, that's carrying it to a little bit of an extreme.
Okay.
It does send a message, and here's the message that I think most of the scientists on both sides actually agree, including the former NFL doctors. I remember meeting with Dr. Maroon and a pathologist from New York City, Dr. Omalu, and Dr. Bales down at West Virginia University when we actually looked at the slide, and they agreed at that time, and that's around 2009, that yes, football-related activities can cause permanent brain damage that's very significant, and we need to make the game safer.
Yeah.
So the message I think that most people want to be received and want to be delivered as a result of this is, first of all, that it was kind of devious on behalf of the NFL that they tried to refute this medical science. And it wasn't just medical science. It's common sense. If you beat up the brain and you hit the brain so many times, you're going to end up with some damage. We all know that. We've known that, and it's been no secret. But for whatever reason, nobody really pronounced it and proffered that as a theory. For whatever reason, it happened. But we need to make the game safer. We need, and if you watch the NFL, they're on the verge, I think, of getting rid of maybe the kickoff and maybe the punt, which are exciting plays, and either getting rid of those or making those less dangerous so that the head-on-head contact. And the NFL has responded, and a lot of the high schools, there has now been passed in every state in the union a concussion law, and it's written after a kid by the name of Lystet out of Washington, who is permanently disabled as a result of a head injury. So the game needs to be safer. We need to look at this helmet. We need to figure out some ways that the helmet can protect the brain, because right now it just protects the skull.
Right, Bob. I tell you what, we need to leave it there. I may have you back though, because there's just a lot of material here. I've been doing some research. There's a lot of material, and I may have you back if you're willing to talk a little bit more about this after I get a chance to see the movie and/or read the book. But I'd like to have you back.
Read the book, Hoppy. I'm through the book, so I didn't make the movie, but I made the book.
Okay. Hey, Bob, great talking to you. Thanks for coming on.
Great talking to you too, Hoppy. We'll see you later.
Thank you very much. Bob Fitzsimmons. It's an unbelievable story, and Fitzsimmons from Wheeling right in the middle of it. We'll be right back.
Hello?
Susan, I need your help.
Sure, what's up?
I need a contractor, and I don't know how to find a good one.
Oh, that's easy. Go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. They have a list of all kinds of contractors.
How do I know if they're good? I don't want just anybody.
Well, do your homework. Are they licensed and insured? Check their references and look at what they've done. Do people like them? And most of all, be sure to get a clear written contract.
Okay, where do I find this association?
Go to hbawv.org.
hbawv.org.
That's it.
Your dreams built by the best. Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia for a list of professionals in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners: Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Needhawk, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today. Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you, and Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on MetroNews near Marlinton over the weekend, long holiday weekend. Husband and wife found dead in their home near Marlinton Friday afternoon. Their grandson, Aaron Bessard of Marlinton, is a person of interest. Lieutenant Mike Bayless with the West Virginia State Police joins us. Mike, a tragic story. Let's start at the beginning. You all, or the authorities got the call. You got there, and what did authorities find when they got at this home? To this home.
Good morning, Hoppy. It was a rough weekend for the West Virginia State Police family when one of our troopers, Trooper Brock from the Marlinton Detachment and the Pocahontas County deputy, went to Tim McDaniels and his wife's residence. Her name's Sean Marie McDaniels. They discovered both their deceased bodies there at the scene.
They'd been shot to death?
Yes, they had been shot.
Okay. And Tim McDaniels is a former trooper, retired trooper. Tell us about Tim.
Well, Tim was a trooper from 1978 to 1991. It's my understanding he was mostly in the Marlinton Detachment and the Elkins Detachment. He was wounded in the line of duty while responding to a domestic situation and received a Purple Heart. Talked to his former detachment commander just this morning, and he was telling me, everybody liked Tim, and what he remembered most about Tim was he was an excellent report writer. So, the West Virginia State Police is kind of small. In our history, there have only been about 3,500 troopers, and so we all know each other pretty well, and I'd talked to Tim several times over the past few years on the phone. Never had the opportunity to meet him face-to-face, but very nice guy, very likable guy.
Well, we're certainly sorry to hear that, and condolences go out to the West Virginia State Police family on the loss of one of their own, retired trooper Tim McDaniels and his wife, Sean Marie. They were both shot to death in their home. Tell us about the person of interest, Aaron Bessard, Bussard 22. Tell us, what do you know about him?
Well, I don't know what turned the officers and the troopers onto him so quick, but they discovered that he'd taken the Honda Pilot that belonged to the McDaniels, and so they pretty quickly were able to obtain a warrant for grand larceny of that Pilot while they were still piecing together the murder scene, and he was stopped, a traffic stop outside of Clifton Forge, Virginia, by the Allegheny County Sheriff's Department on Saturday. And during that stop, it's my understanding that he threatened suicide, and it was a rather lengthy stop there where they were able to take him into custody, and now he sits in jail awaiting extradition proceedings.
Has he been charged with murder or will be charged with murder when he gets back to West Virginia?
He will be. It's my understanding that they have obtained the warrants for 2 counts of first-degree murder.
There are warrants for 2 counts of first-degree murder against Bessard. And he's their grandson, correct?
That's correct.
Was robbery a motive, or do you know what the motive was or could have been or may have been?
We're still trying to piece it together. Evidently, he had several personal demons he was dealing with, and what we do know is that he did steal the Honda Pilot, and also that there were some credit cards that belonged to the victims that were missing, and there were some rather large charges on those credit cards as well. So we're still trying to piece together the motive.
Lieutenant Mike Bayless with the West Virginia State Police. Again, sorry about the loss, and we appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, Hoppy.
We'll be back.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Grab the last cup of coffee of the morning. We'll regroup in 6 minutes. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network. Presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Calling all gingerbread aficionados. The Blennerhassett Hotel's 3rd annual gingerbread contest kicks off Tuesday. You don't have to be a master pastry chef to participate. Children and adults of all ages, skill levels are encouraged to join. Contest runs through December 28th, so grab those icing tips and your favorite candies. Check out some of the festival holiday creations for more information. Visit go2wv.com or call 800-225-5982 for the Blennerhassett Hotel's 3rd annual gingerbread contest, which starts tomorrow. Joining us, Brad Howe, Alan Taylor, Metro News Sports. I like a nice gingerbread, personally. I enjoy gingerbread.
I'm a little disappointed you're reading that and don't have any for us.
I know.
That's not a very good host.
I know. 3 men with beards. That's what we got today. We're all doing the beard thing. No Shave November for Alzheimer's awareness, and we all got beards. And I think of the 3, AT's looks the best. It's just me.
It all started when I was 15, and I took this supplement that I ordered out of the back of a magazine, and puberty hit roughly the next day.
You know, he's coming more to where we are with the gray, though. You notice?
Yeah.
If he just goes stubble, it's real dark. Now it's getting a little more gray.
West Virginia's won 4 in a row. What's it all mean, Brad?
What's it all mean, Hoppy? Well, the point of the thing is to win games, so you take it. So regardless of who you've beaten, and these have not been 4 very good teams. Kansas State's a 5th. It's not very good. You take it because they're wins, and that's the point, and that's a lot better than where this team was in October, right? When it was losing 4, everybody was losing their mind. At least now you're back on track. You're winning. You're doing some things better. You're running the ball well. Again, some of that may be opponent base. This defense has been pretty good. This defense is doing a good job for the last month or so.
AT, what say you?
They were very good Saturday. I mean, you're looking at 9 quarters without a touchdown, and I don't care.
I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah,
If
if it's Georgia Southern or Maryland, that's good. But if you look at this 4-game series over November, they held everybody, Texas, Texas Tech, Kansas, and Iowa State, well below their averages.
Right.
So even if their offensive averages were bad coming in, West Virginia still undercut it severely. So they've beaten the teams handily that they should beat this year. That's a step up, even though they haven't been able to compete against the top 4 teams.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty clear that there's 4 teams in this league that are better than the rest. Then I think you're looking at maybe a 2-team middle with West Virginia and Texas Tech, and then the rest of those in the bottom. So West Virginia right now vying to be the best of that second group of teams.
If you're a fan, are you pumped? The crowd was really bad on Saturday. Now, there were a lot of things contributing to that. The weather was bad. Students were out, that kind of thing. And they announced, 42, and it was nowhere near 42 there, but that was the announce. So if you're a fan, are you jacked here? Are you fired up or not?
I think it's you talk about the Masters being a tradition like no other. I think that Thanksgiving with Iowa State is a tradition that's unlikable. It's going to be there, but what's the big deal? It's a blah opponent. It was a blah day. You're right. There weren't 42,000 people there. That's the second lowest crowd in the Big 12 era for West Virginia. The lowest 2 years ago against Iowa State on Thanksgiving when I think the Cyclones were 2-win and West Virginia was a 4-win team. So
you've got to go back a long way to get in those numbers. I mean, you got to go all the way back to the 2003 season where you pumped in a 35 against Temple and a 42 against UCF. So the students have been gone every Thanksgiving, and there's been some bad weather with some mediocre opponents, and you've drawn well. So I think it is fair to say, even with all those factors, there's a little bit of blah going on right now with this team.
Yeah. So, and I tell you, you combine. There's only so much time and so many dollars available to people, okay? Mm-hmm. And you have to have a really compelling reason for people to want to go. Now, some people are diehards, and the 30,000 are there. The diehards are going to be there regardless. Doesn't matter. They're always going to be there. They're going to show up for every game. Other people have... it's discretionary. It's a holiday weekend. It's shopping. It's this. It's that. It costs money. The weather's bad, and you lose those people.
That all factors in. I think if you can fast forward this, what's going to be interesting to me is if this team wins 5 in a row and then can go on and get a 6th win in a bowl, which should be, while it may not be a great team based on where this team will be in a bowl game, it'll at least be a name. It'll be a good SEC team or maybe a Pac-12 team. What's this do for next year? I mean, you win 6 in a row or you win 5 of 6. Will people be really jacked coming into September of next year?
AT, will they?
Better than, I think, the last 2 years when, ticket sales have sort of plateaued or even gone down a little bit. It does depend on the bowl game because they haven't won one since the Orange Bowl.
Right.
I mean, and really haven't given a good bowl showing in either one of the 2 losses they've had.
So is it important to play? Do you want to play, if you're West Virginia, do you want to play a superior team and go for it and try to knock somebody off to make this last stretch meaningful in the season, or you just want to win the game, whoever you're playing? Which is it?
See, I think I'll take a win a game because I think
Win a game, doesn't matter.
almost anybody you get at this point is going to have a decent name. So if you can get, like, again, I don't know that these are great matchups, but even an LSU or an Arkansas or somebody that's a name, regardless of the season they're having. Much like we've talked about Texas, right? It's still a name. So at this point, given what Alan just said there, I'm with him. You go into a bowl and you beat an SEC team, I think you take that regardless of who that SEC team is.
AT?
Yeah, the SEC carries so much cachet that, I mean, TCU still bragging about beating Ole Miss last year. You know, and whoever beat Mississippi State is I think it was Georgia Tech is all over it. And it's going to be an SEC West team if you go to the Texas Bowl in Houston, almost guaranteed.
You think that's where they're headed?
Actually, today I saw where they were picked to drop all the way down to Cactus, which would mean they lost to K-State, and that you fall basically from the 5th bowl all the way down to the 7th because you don't want to go back to Memphis for a second year.
The Liberty Bowl.
Which would actually be more
So
standing
who do you play in the
appropriate.
Cactus if you went to the Cactus?
Right now it looks like Cal or some low-level, mid-level
Boy, you
Pac-12
said
team.
that just like, oh, Cal.
See, to me, I think this is two different points. If I'm a team member or the staff, that trip to Arizona is pretty good. I think I kind of like that. From a fan perspective,
Well, you
watching
can't
that,
go.
I want to stay in this time zone, or at least in the Central Zone, play an SEC team rather than beating a Cal. Cal does not excite me. I'd like to see an SEC team on the schedule.
Plus, going to Houston and playing in that NFL arena versus, I don't even know if Tempe's played at the Sun Devil Stadium or the Cardinal Stadium.
Or
I think
is it
it's
the baseball park?
I've never watched a Cactus Bowl in my
You
life.
never watched it?
It's on January 2nd, though. It's actually
somehow,
slotted between the
somehow,
playoffs.
I mean, Houston seems like, oh yeah, you can get a flight to Houston. I mean, it seems more doable.
It's more.
I mean, West Virginia fans want to go to Florida regardless.
Well,
but
then take that out of the equation and say you're not going and want to listen to our pregame and then watch on TV. That's a 10:30 Eastern kick for that Cactus Bowl. That's
10:30 Eastern.
That's not enticing for me as a fan. I want no part of that thing. Keep me in Texas at the worst.
Yeah, because
10:30 Eastern.
Yeah, 10 or 10:30
on what? On a weeknight or a weekend?
Whatever. What's
January
January
2nd.
Let me tell you what that is.
The perfect hangover
Will that be
cure.
is that Sunday? Is that Saturday? When is that? Oh, jeez.
It's a Saturday at least. That helps you.
You guys are used to it. You've been going at 9 a.m. every day, every weekend this year, and I've been really proud of you guys. You haven't missed a curtain call yet.
No, we show up for work. That's what we do. All right. Okay. What about Dana's contract extension? What's next on that?
I say make it. You take Kirk Ferentz's contract. You just change the name. You give it to Dana. 10 years, like $6 million a year.
See, and maybe this is me because of my background of being in athletic administration. I'm fascinated about what's going to happen next.
You've been clamoring about this thing all season.
So I'm going to
say
the same thing I've been saying all year. That absent of moving on, which at this point you're not moving on. So an extension or / new contract is coming. You got to get that thing back to 4 or 5 years. Will Shane step forward and say, from an athletic department perspective, we can't be $15 million into one individual, which is what the contract was for Dana. It was fully guaranteed, right? 5 years at the total amount.
Only Les Miles gets that deal.
Will Shane come in and say, here's your new deal. It's a 4 or 5 year deal or a 2-year, 3 extension, however you want to do it. But there is now a buyout clause in this. If I'm Shane Lyons, I can't imagine you wouldn't present that. That's the best deal for the university. Now, if I'm Dana, you might not accept that, right? You might just say, no thanks. Then you're working with a 2-year contract. So I think what's coming in the next couple of weeks is absolutely fascinating because it draws a real line in the sand. Unless Shane just goes in and says, here's a new contract and we're guaranteeing you $15 million, which I can't imagine. Oliver Luck did that the first time to a first-year head coach in Dana. I would be stunned if that happens again on this contract. That's just me.
Yeah.
AT?
It's like insurance. You got two factors here. You got term and you got value. Dana has probably earned an extension of term, whether that's just a 1-year rollover or a 2-year rollover. I don't know that he needs to be paid at a higher rate for not having won a bowl game in 3 or 4 years and for actually have been on the firing line until the last month. So I think you just roll it over as is and try to negotiate in some safeguards for the buyouts.
So roll it over and you would just have 2 more years? That's what you would do?
I think 2 max, because that gets him 4 out.
But you're saying there should be a buyout in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, if you roll over 2 more years, that's a 4-year contract at roughly $3 million a year. If you want to make a change in that time and have to owe 12, I mean, you wouldn't do that. So you would be hamstrung. So again, Shane's responsibility here is to the athletic department, right? That's his job, is to make sure that part is safeguarded. The best interest of the department is to have a way out if you want a way out somewhere down the road. The only way to achieve that at this point is to have some sort of buyout in there. But again, Dana doesn't have to agree to that. So that's to me, that's the fascinating part that's coming.
Brad Howe, Alan Taylor, Metro News Sports. How about all these coaches? I mean, the Mark Richt thing, I guess that was, and I think, Brad, you said maybe during our coverage Saturday or some point along the way, just don't stay anywhere longer than 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, I think you get into that 8 or 9 and 10 max year. Is this what's happened? You saw it at LSU. They get Les Miles didn't win enough. Mark Richt not win enough. I think at some point in that 8 or 9 range, you've got to go and start over at another place, because it is just near impossible to meet expectations when you're in that rare air.
People get tired.
They get tired. They've heard the same stories. They've heard you talk. You can be the greatest guy in the world, but they've heard it all before, and you just get tired of that person. So that's why I think you got to move on.
I think especially in the SEC, which is that elite neighborhood where if your house is more than 5 or 6 years old, it's suddenly the worst one on the block.
Got to remodel.
You've got to have a new pool guy. You got to have a new contractor coming in. You got to keep getting bigger and better. And that's what Les Miles is being judged against, the fact that he's not beating the team that's been the best in the country over the last 5 years. That's their whole hang-up with him.
Yeah, that's their standard, but I don't know what you...
That LSU thing was handled about as poorly as you can handle a situation, though. Let's leak that we may be getting rid of him, and then everybody panics, and then we come back and blame the media that it was out there that we were getting rid of Les Miles. That Joe Alleva, the AD, he absolutely butchered that.
Well, did he, or is it the is the Board of Trustees for LSU? Do they have a case of Texas talking where everyone wants to be heard?
Probably yes.
And everybody wants to be the guy who leaked it, and there was some erroneous information out there. Some guys said flat out the wrong thing.
Or maybe not erroneous. I mean, it may have been that point at Thursday, and then the thing switched because those guys got cold feet and said, "Oh God, we're getting drilled out here. We don't want to be the back. Let's bring him back."
And that's what happens. I mean lots of times those things. I mean, first of all, you get hearsay information. You get one source maybe that tells you something, and maybe and then the thing is fluid. Then it changes.
Welcome to college athletics, where it's not just a single person making these decisions, where you have lay people, for lack of a better term, that don't do this on a daily basis, controlling some of the strings and talking out there. That's the new age of college athletics. Welcome aboard.
My favorite ESPN scroll ever. Joe Shad reports this, Chris Lowe reports this, and they were counter opposite at the same time on the ESPN scroll, like going head to head.
Which means two people in the know were giving conflicting reports to those guys.
Who had it right?
Technically, Chris Lowe did.
Did he? What did Chad have?
Chad had he was gone. Lowe says he's not necessarily gone. There's a chance he'll be retained.
But then LSU's quote on the back, and I know the audience probably didn't care as much about LSU here, but the interesting thing from LSU, one of the comments was, once they saw the reaction out there, they felt they would be viewed as, quote, you ready? Mean-spirited if they got rid of Les Miles. But it wasn't mean-spirited to talk about his career, let him spin out there. Thanks.
Is the Iowa State hire a good hire? Guy from Toledo?
I think so, because it got done fast.
That's Jamie Pollard.
Which says they targeted him.
Yeah.
They weren't going to wait to see who didn't make the cut for the big jobs. And it's a guy from that neck of the woods, that part of the country. You're not taking, as I saw one quote, you're not taking a Southerner and dropping him in the middle of Iowa and expecting him to continue being successful.
He's an Ohio guy. He's a young guy. He's well thought of. He's probably not in that elite 3 guys that everybody was talking about. He's in that next crop, very high thought of. Is it a good hire? I don't know. That remains to be seen. At this moment in time, yes, it's probably a good hire for them.
Okay. And finally, Cliff Kingsbury, not the youngest coach in Power 5 anymore, right? I think this guy's
like
36. Yeah, he's a young guy.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Brad Howe, Alan Taylor, Metro News Sports, and Reed, AT, at WVMetroNews.com. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right, man. Here in West Virginia, 2 great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot, $110 million. Mega Millions jackpot, $39 million. Please play responsibly.
'Tis the season to start saving. At MVB Bank, it's easy with our new 12-month CD. Start earning 1.15% annual percentage yield with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. To start your CD savings today, visit our jolly team at any MVB location or call us at 844-MVB-BANK. It's sure to keep you off the naughty list next year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Imagine a scale and you're trying to balance it. Too much on one side and it sinks, just like our state's economy. When jobs are centered on one or two industries, the balance is off, our economy sinks, and good-paying jobs disappear. West Virginia needs a variety of industries, including fossil fuels, small business, and high-tech jobs to bring balance. The High Technology Foundation works to bring those high-tech jobs here. Ask your legislator if they're helping the High Technology Foundation bring balance to our economy. From the West Virginia High Technology Foundation.
Every minute of every day, West Virginia's hospitals are working for you and working for West Virginia. With more than 43,000 healthcare professionals, West Virginia's hospitals are dedicated to serving the needs of their communities, even beyond traditional healthcare. I am Joe Litton with the West Virginia Hospital Association, and we are proud to celebrate our compassionate caregivers and their commitment to improving the health of all West Virginians.
A message from the West Virginia Hospital Association, online at wvha.org.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Let's go to Jared Halpern, Fox News Radio in Washington, D.C., following politics, of course, following the race for the Republican nomination. And Jared, what's the latest on the political front with the GOP?
Well, I think it's remarkable. Here we are now after Thanksgiving. We get into this holiday season. I think, the campaign schedules don't necessarily taper, but people are doing other things. You're with your family, you're shopping, and we are now within that magical, 2.5 month period or so before the Iowa caucuses, and there has not been a ton of shifting within the Republican Party.
Right.
Donald Trump is still the far and away front runner at this stage. Nothing he has said that has stirred up all this controversy has seemed to have too much of an impact on him. That has not been the same for Dr. Ben Carson, who has seen a little bit of a slide in recent polling, largely after some of these world events, Paris, what's happening in Syria. And he's trying to fight that back. He spent the weekend in Jordan meeting with Syrian refugees, meeting with Middle East leaders, so he can come back and show that he does have some of this foreign policy experience that he has lacked, at least in the debates and some of the interviews that he's given.
Yeah, Trump is, the consensus is he's got a core, and the core loves him, and they'll line up 5 blocks deep to go see him, and it doesn't matter what he says.
And I think important to that as well is the type of voters and the number, I should say, not the type as much as the number of voters that I think maybe he has brought into this Republican primary process. And should he not be a part of the primary, how many of those voters? Because we've always talked about, well, where does the Trump support go, right? If he were to get out of the race, which candidate would be the benefactor of that support? And I don't know if that's an easy question to answer, because you wonder how many of his supporters would vote for another candidate. I mean, in much of the same way that I think Bernie Sanders has energized a particular part of the Democratic Party.
Right.
Donald Trump has done the same within the Republican Party.
Yeah, you wonder whether those people would like the Sanders people, whether
Would they
automatically just go over
there. Or would they sit it out?
Yeah.
And I think that's the big unknown with Donald Trump. And it certainly explains why he has remained the juggernaut, the front runner that he has. His base is loyal. His supporters, as you point out, show up in the thousands. They line up. They like to be a part of these events. They like what he has to say. And it doesn't really matter what he says, because part of the appeal of Donald Trump, I think, is that he is not from the quote-unquote establishment, right? And so anybody that comes along from the establishment, whether it be the media, whether it be other Republicans, whether it be government officials who counter what he has to say, simply don't have the type of credibility that Donald Trump has for his supporters.
Jared, speaking of, and Jared Halpern's with us, Fox News Radio in Washington, D.C. Speaking of anti-establishment, there's Ted Cruz. And Cruz, although he's a member of the Senate, I think he continues to increase his anti-establishment cred, which also is very popular outside of Washington. Inside, I mean, under the Capitol Dome, he's not popular with leadership, but that's good for him.
He's probably not Mitch McConnell's favorite Republican.
No.
He may not be his favorite senator of any party, but no, I mean, and that's right. That is sort of the narrative of this 2016 race so far, is the quote-unquote outsider. And anybody who can appeal to the outsider interest, as we have seen, has done remarkably well. And that is why somebody like Jeb Bush has still struggled to catch on, because it is hard for somebody with the name Jeb Bush to energize the anti-establishment wing of the party. It is why the governors, I think, have had such a difficult time. Look, the only people that have left this Republican race so far are governors. Mm-hmm. And we all thought, at least many in the political sort of realm, we thought that this would probably be a good election cycle for governors. And so far, it has not been, because they are so intrinsically tied with either unpopular legislation or just being of the system that they have been largely rejected. I did think it was interesting over the weekend that Chris Christie got a big endorsement from the major newspaper there in New Hampshire, the Union Leader in Manchester. That was, I don't know how surprising or unsurprising it was, but that's certainly going to help Chris Christie as he tries to make something happen in New Hampshire, which is where so much of this race, I think, is going to turn. In Iowa, we'll see what happens, but I think it's unlikely, or at least has not been the case recently, that you were able to capture both Iowa and New Hampshire, right?
Well,
so that is always sort of the whittling field, is who can win in either Iowa or New Hampshire.
Well, because we need to always, Jared, add to New Hampshire's overinflated sense of importance politically. So I'll count on you to continue.
Not Iowa's?
Well, Iowa's too. I think New Hampshire might be worse.
When should we have the West Virginia primary? How early can we get that in the cycle?
Jared Halpern, Fox News Radio. Thanks, man. Good talking to you.
Anytime.
All right, take care. Don't forget, you got to have your DNR ID number to check game this year. And it's easy to do once you have your DNR ID number. So get it by going to WVHunt.com. WVHunt.com. This is Talkline on MetroNews, Voice of West Virginia. 11:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Chris Lawrence. New information in the murder of a Pocahontas County couple from back on Friday. State police now confirmed the identities of those victims as 59-year-olds Tim and Sean McDaniels. The couple found dead in their Marlinton home on Friday afternoon when police were called for a wellness check. Tim McDaniels is a retired trooper who was forced to take a medical retirement after he was injured in a gunfight, an incident that earned him a Purple Heart. Authorities in Allegheny County, Virginia, arrested 22-year-old Aaron Bussard of Marlinton, their grandson, on Saturday after a lengthy standoff. He was caught driving the McDaniels automobile and is charged with grand larceny, and troopers say he's a person of interest in their murder. The jury in the trial of Don Blankenship began its seventh day of deliberating this morning at the federal courthouse in Charleston. They've been off since last Tuesday when Judge Irene Berger gave them a long break for Thanksgiving. They left the jury room last week with no indication where they were in the deliberating process. Judge Berger advised all 12 members to be vigilant this morning about discussing the case outside the jury chamber, and even advised they were to walk away if necessary to avoid a public conversation about the case. Folks are finding themselves stuck in a pickle on the turnpike when they roll up to a toll booth with no cash. In a world where credit and debit cards and Apple Pay are becoming the more common currency, Greg Barr, Turnpike Director, says that slows things down.
One reason we didn't do it is it takes more time, believe it or not, to hand somebody a credit card, to swipe the card. There are times when the cards don't read.
You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
This message is brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program, the West Virginia Division of Motor Vehicles, and the West Virginia Department of Transportation.
West Virginians love the outdoors, whether it's hunting the big buck, fishing for that elusive trout, or just enjoying our wild, wonderful state. Keep up with what's happening in news of the outdoors with Chris Lawrence and Metro News. On the Outdoors page at WVMetroNews.com, you'll find podcasts of Ram Trucks West Virginia Outdoors, the Ram Trophy Room, the Trout Stocking Report, and Chris's West Virginia Outdoor Journal. For coverage of the great outdoors, depend on Chris Lawrence and Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
8 people were injured in an accident involving multiple vehicles this morning on I-77 near Charleston. It happened near the Bell exit around 6 o'clock. It involved a tractor-trailer. Cyber Monday is here. Retailers offering huge discounts on a range of items, especially computer and other electronic gear. Yahoo Tech Magazine Editor-in-Chief Dan Tynan recommends using a comparison site like BizRate to determine the actual price of an item before you get a too-good-to-be-true discount. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Chris Lawrence.
Welcome back, Talkline on Metro News. The Blennerhassett Hotel's third annual gingerbread contest kicks off tomorrow, Tuesday. You don't have to be a master pastry chef to participate. Kids, adults, all ages. Skill levels, doesn't matter. You're encouraged to join. The contest runs through December 28th, so you can participate in this holiday festive creation. For more information, visit go2wv.com, go2wv.com, or call 800-225-5982, 800-225-5982, or visit go2wv.com for the Blennerhassett Hotel's third annual gingerbread contest. Starts tomorrow, runs through December 28th. Lots of times people say to me, Hoppy, why don't you do any good news? And we do try to do good news. We have good news fairly frequently, and sometimes I just hear about it and want to talk about it, and other times people pitch me and say, hey, here's a good news story. So I was pitched this, and this is a good news story. The Old Brick Playhouse, which is a private nonprofit in Elkins, been there since 1992, and they have involved kids there for a number of years with a theater program there. And some of those middle and high schoolers got to go to the White House recently for a program there. The founder of the program is Missy McCollum, founder of the Old Brick Playhouse in Elkins, and she joins us on Metro News Talkline. Missy, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Hoppy, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for coming on. So who got to go to the White House and when?
Well, actually, 10 of our students are Old Brick apprentices. That's middle and high school students. So 10 of our high school students went on November 16th for an entire day at the White House. How about that?
That's cool. What did they do? Who was there? What was going on there? It was this apprentice program at the White House. Is that right?
Well, no, actually, our program's called the Apprentice Program, but this was called Broadway at the White House. So we got a call from the President's Committee on the Arts, and they said, would you like to bring 10 students to the White House? So they invited Broadway professionals, and our kids got a whole day of training from people who work regularly on Broadway.
Who was there from Broadway?
Well, Andrew Lloyd Webber was there.
Really? Holy cow.
Yes.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
I know, that's pretty big. Stephen Schwartz was there, who wrote Wicked and Pippin.
Mm-hmm.
Whoopi Goldberg was there. Gloria Estefan, Kristen Chenoweth, Matthew Morrison. It was very, very packed with people who work on film, TV, Broadway shows. And they basically divided the kids into small groups, and they taught them different things about the trade.
Really? So it actually was a workshop. They actually got some direct benefit from people who've made great careers in the arts.
They did, and they also got to spend some time with the First Lady.
Oh,
which,
cool.
She joined one of the workshops. I think it was the dance workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And they spent a little bit of time with Stephen Schwartz, who is the guy who wrote Wicked, in the Family Theater at the White House, which is a room not a lot of people ever get to go in. It's where the president's family actually watches movies, and they had a little workshop in that for about 45 minutes on how to write a Broadway hit.
What do you think the kids, Missy McCollum is with us from the Old Brick Playhouse in Elkins, and she and 10 of her students got to go to the White House a couple of weeks ago and visit with some arts people there at the White House. What do you think the kids got from the experience?
Well, I tell you what, the theme for the day was that I think if you have a passion for something and you couple that with hard work, that it doesn't matter where you're from, you can get where you need to go, which is a theme that we think is really important at the Old Brick, and we try to encourage that all the time because these people are from anywhere, just like all of us, and what they were telling the kids is, you need to couple passion with hard work, which I love that theme anyway because, as you know very well, that's how you get where you want to be.
Yeah, passion, hard work, showing up. I also know this, though, that it's hard, and just because now if you work hard and have talent, it increases your chances pretty significantly, but it doesn't guarantee success. So you can your students can work hard and have passion and still not achieve that high level success because it's a tough business. I mean, entertainment, as you know, is a tough business.
It is. It's absolutely a tough business, and another thing they talked about is that even if you're not on Broadway, you can still have success as an entertainer. And we do a lot of that at the Old Brick. These kids who went to the White House work on the Polar Express. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Sure, yeah.
But it's something we do in Elkins. We partner with the Dearborn-Greenbrier Valley Railroad. And in this workshop, they were saying, you don't have to be in New York to be a successful performer, but be creative about how you use your craft in terms of the arts, and you can use it in many different fields. If you're a graphic artist, you can use it online, or, try to be an entrepreneur in how you double your art with a real-world job, and you really can make a living doing what you're passionate about.
That's great advice. And we're talking with Missy McCollum, who's with the Old Brick Playhouse in Elkins, a private nonprofit theater that's been around since 1992, and 10 of her students got to go to the White House earlier this month, and there were 10 of just 40 there, right? Is that right?
Yes, which was shocking. When we initially received the invitation, we thought it was going to be 400, it was a very brief amount of time that we had to prepare for the trip, and it all had to be covert because of the nature of a White House visit. And then later, when we got more details, they said no, only 40 students.
Wow.
which was really special because we really had one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, how did you pick your 10? I mean, oh my gosh, I got to pick 10.
Well, that was the worst part of the whole process
Yeah.
because we have 86 students, and
Oh.
I tell you what, they're all equally talented. I mean, they're really, really. It was a very difficult process. They gave us some guidelines that we needed to go by, so it had to be upper grades, and they gave us guidelines that we needed to go by. So that's really what we used.
What are you doing this holiday season at the Old Brick Playhouse?
Well, we're doing the Polar Express right now.
Okay.
So we have 40 employees and 50 students volunteering. And we see about 600 people a night on the Polar Express.
Really?
So, yes.
That's
we
great.
sold about 16,000 tickets. So everyone here is holiday cheer.
That's outstanding. Where is it? Where is the Playhouse?
The Playhouse is downtown Elkins on the corner of Davis and 4th in a building that was built in 1919.
Mm-hmm.
And we inhabit most of the building, and our apprentices meet here a couple times a week. So it's a real kind of teen hangout.
That's great. Well, it's a good thing. I mean, it has its own benefit, but also it's a place for kids to go, something for them to be involved in, and that's.
And you know what? I do think there's that famous quotation that kids who create things don't destroy things.
Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm.
And I really do believe that if kids get involved in something that interests them and allows them to, find out what they're really good at, it diverts them from doing negative things. Our motto is everyone's different and everyone's important. So we really try to celebrate what's unique about a kid. And we find if you can get involved in something artistic, that it really does kind of save you from falling into other more negative things.
That's a great, it's well said. Missy McCollum at the Old Brick Playhouse got to take 10 of her students to the White House. Congratulations, Missy. Good luck. Continued success at the Old Brick Playhouse and continued success with the Polar Express. Thanks for coming on today. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
And thank you.
All right, good to talk to you. All right, good job there in Elkins. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
In this season of giving, consider donating your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage. You'll get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi. If you're in a business or organization that needs visual help, then let's get together and talk. For more than a decade now, those of us at Pikewood Creative have embraced the opportunity to help people just like you tell their story visually. Whether it's a video, commercial, animation, or motion graphics piece, we produce content that make others take notice. We help people increase their business and organizations better tell their story. If you need help, then contact us at pikewoodcreative.com.
The event you've been waiting for is here, the Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Truck Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. Northside's pulling out all the stops with huge incentives and ultra-low percentage rates. You can buy a 2015 Town & Country minivan and get 0% financing for 75 months and up to $2,500 in rebates. Yes, I said $2,500 in rebates. Hurry to Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Trucks, your central West Virginia destination for savings. Visit on the web at northsidewv.com.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC. Week 2 of deer season starts today. Back from his hunting last week, it's our outdoors editor, Chris Lawrence. I told a couple people your story. I was telling somebody, I said, Chris Lawrence is it's this big week, and somebody said, does Chris get a deer? And I said, I don't know. He's always too busy hauling his kids' game out of the woods. So, did you get a deer? Okay, we don't have Chris. You with me?
And that was again the case this year. No, I did not.
You didn't get a deer?
You don't have me? You should. Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you got delay. We're going to hang on. All right, now you were listening in delay. Now you should have me direct.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Okay, so
I'm still
you did,
listening in delay, I believe.
You did or did not get a deer?
I did not kill a deer.
All right, this is not working. I'm going to take a break and be.
We're in the spirit of giving at MVB Bank this year, and our gift to you includes awesome CD products at great rates, like our 58-month 2.12 annual percentage yield CD. You can start saving today with a minimum deposit of just $1,000. Hurry in now and avoid the holiday rush. This is a present that keeps on earning year after year. MVB Bank, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Visit us at mvbbanking.com.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider. Changing lives by preventing harm and providing hope and healing to hurting children and families. Burlington United Methodist Family Services has led the way in West Virginia for over 100 years, preventing harm by helping place endangered children in safe, caring foster homes, providing hope by counseling birth parents in their choice to parent or make an adoption plan, and helping adopted parents in their quest for a child. Go to bumfs.org to see how Burlington United Methodist Family Services is truly changing lives.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Here in West Virginia, there are 2 great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays, Mega Millions on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $110 million. The Mega Millions jackpot, $39 million. Please play responsibly. Back from a week of deer hunting, Chris Lawrence, MetroNews Outdoors editor. Did you or did you not get a deer?
I did not get a deer.
Did your kids get a deer?
Yes, they all 3 did, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
They all 3 did and you didn't?
Yeah, the daughter killed one, and I talked about this Saturday on the show. She killed one back in October. She chose not to go this week. She said, I already got a deer. Y'all go ahead. But my son Travis was in. He lives in Morgantown now. So the last couple of years, he hasn't been able to join us. So he came back for Thanksgiving. So he was hunting with us, and he got one the second day. Hank, my other son, got one the first day. And both of the deer they killed, I saw first. They came running by my stand in a hurry, and when they passed me and wouldn't stop, I just texted them and said, get ready, and then I'd hear a shot, and then I was hiking up to wherever they were.
Got you. You have been collecting pictures on the website at wvmetronews.com on the outdoor page of kills. What have you come up with?
Well, you would really be impressed to take a look at the gallery at the Ram Trucks Trophy Room right now. I told you before the season that, and the folks at DNR relayed to me that it was going to be a great season for big racks, and we went through all the reasons why. But it became even better on Monday when the opening day had bluebird skies and sunny conditions, and it wasn't too terribly cold. It was cold enough, but not so cold that you'd have to give up for the day. So a lot of hunter participation throughout the week. We had that kind of weather. And then I noticed after I got in the field that the bucks in many cases were still rutting. And when a buck's rutting, you have a better chance of killing him because he makes decisions that probably aren't in his best interest. So the pictures have been rolling in, and there have been quite a few of them with some sizable racks on them, the kind of racks that everybody hunts for when they go out. One in particular, this one actually did not get sent to the trophy room, ironically. I just heard about this buck that was killed in Upshur County.
Yeah, I saw the picture of that one. Wow.
Yeah, the Starkey buck, this guy Nick Starkey and his wife are big hunters, both of them. And I got a hold of her. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to. He was a little microphone shy, but she was more than willing to tell the story that I guess they have a hunting lease in Upshur County, and they have game cameras out like most people do. And they had not seen this buck on camera until I think it was the Friday before opening day. And that was the first time they had seen it, and it was actually on her game camera in the stand she hunts from. Mm-hmm. And he was all excited about it. She said, I'm not too excited about antlers and doesn't really do much for me, but he was so excited that she said, you go ahead and hunt there Monday, which in my mind earns her Wife of the Century Award.
Absolutely.
And so he said, okay, but the plan was to let their daughter kill it, and he was hunting with his daughter, and that buck came in right before dark, about 5 o'clock Monday evening, and his daughter said she was shaking so much she was afraid to shoot, and she whispered to her dad, You shoot him. You shoot him. And so he did. And they have the scoring metric that they use is the Boone and Crockett system for a gun kill, and the DNR keeps records of these from over the years. This one, and in order to be officially certified, it has to dry for 60 days. But they call it green score if you were, to take a measurement of it ahead of time. And the green score on this was 192. I don't have the story in front of me. 192 and 2/8, I think, which would best the old record that was set in 1994, which was around 185 or something like that. So it won't be official until it is, certified in 60 days. But odds are it's not going to shrink that much with the drying process. And if that green score was accurate, whoever did it, then that would probably make it a record buck. And I would not be surprised to see other records fall, because some of the archery deer that were killed in archery season that were coming in before buck season even opened were just fantastic.
191 and 2/8.
Yeah, okay.
191 and 2/8. So that would make it what in terms of record?
There are 4 different categories. One for gun is typical and non-typical for gun, and typical and non-typical for archery. And the difference there is a non-typical buck would be one where it's got an unusual antler, anything that takes away from the symmetrics of the buck. If you got a drop, one of the tines droops down, or it's got an odd number on one side, then that would make it a non-typical buck. But this one was, if you look at the picture of it, man, it was almost perfectly symmetrical, and it's just is so big.
Is that an 8-point?
I think it's 10.
Is it 10? I'm trying to look at the picture, but I mean the rack is huge.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the place you can really tell if you've got a fantastic buck is when the base of the antlers, right where they're coming out of the
10.
head.
It's 10 point. Yeah.
Are the size of about the size of a pop can.
Yeah.
And then you look at the antlers that come up off the main beam. When you get those that are up, 7, 8, 9, and 10 inches long above the main beam, that's an incredible deer right there with a lot of mass to it.
So you still taking pictures?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, in fact, the Ram Trucks is signed on as our sponsor of that this year, and so we've got some prizes. And it doesn't really matter if it's this guy's buck or if it's a doe that you happen to kill. Whatever you feel like is you're proud to show off, send it to us. And we put them all into a random drawing, and actually later on this week we're going to draw our November prize, which will be a Bosch power drill, and then we've got another prize to draw in December from all the entries we get, and that will be $250 in Mossy Oak apparel. And then we have a grand prize of all the entries we receive, and that will be $500 worth of Under Armour gear. So that's not a bad prize.
Looking at your trophy room now, and I see a picture of it looks like a doe, but it's just a kid. The kid looks like he's about 8 years old.
Yeah. There's some great pictures of kids on there. And some of those kids killed bucks that any of us would be proud to say we killed. And that's the kind of year it's been. I mean, it's been a healthy year for everybody who was hunting.
Because one near the end, it's a pretty good sized buck. It looks like an 8-point, and it looks like a father and son. I wonder who shot that one.
I think that one the son shot it, but it was so heavy the dad had to hold it up for the picture.
Yeah.
And those are cool too when you get father and son photos or grandparents or things like that. And that I would direct you to another story on the Outdoors page about a little girl in Tucker County who killed her first deer. This didn't happen last week. It happened last month. But she and her grandmother went hunting, and she killed it. And it's a touching story because the little girl always wanted to take a hunting trip with her grandfather, who they were real close. But right before, and this was several years ago, before the hunting season, he died, and she didn't get to go. And she had never killed a deer, and she asked her grandmother this year to take her on the youth day, and she did. And it's a pretty touching story about just missing a family member, and a heartwarming story about accomplishing what she set out to do.
So check out the Ram Truck Trophy Room at the West Virginia Outdoors page there at wvmetronews.com.
Indeed.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Chris.
All right, man.
All right, man. Good talking to you. Yeah, the one in, you got to go to wvmetronews.com, the Outdoors page. The one in from Upshur County, you got to see. That one is, that's a big time buck. Okay, got to run. Ran out of time. Sorry about the calls. See you tomorrow. This has been Talkline on Metro News, Voice of West Virginia.